Hey everybody, the last few Thought of the Day videos I've been doing, I've just kind of been going through my archives, and the last thing I found kind of buried at the bottom was these letters that I had been saving from one of my good friends. I have a good friend, and we've written letters back and forth since I moved away from the Palouse and moved to Cincinnati. A good friend of mine named Davin, and every now and then he has something that I just think is so. Davin is, he thinks about things differently. He sees the world through a different lens. A lot of us have friends like these, and they are often gifts to us. And every now and then, Davin will have something in one of his letters, and I'm like, that is so good and unique, and I want to share that. And will you let me? And he gave me permission to share anything that he sends my way. Did he ask for anonymity? Hold on, let me make sure he didn't, because it's if that's the case, it's too late. I've let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, he doesn't say he has to be anonymous, so there you go. Let's see here. The last thing he sent me, not the last thing, but the first thing I pulled out of the stack of stuff that I saved was he sent this observation to me one day about pyramids and oak trees. Pyramids and oak trees. And one of the things we do on the podcast is we talk a lot about empire and shalom. We contrast two different worldviews, two different ways of seeing and going about doing things. We talk about empire in a particular way, fear, coercion, force, stick, and we talk about shalom, peace. We talk about invitation. We talk about compassion, hospitality, all that kind of stuff. Love, grace, mercy. And so he was thinking visually. And he was thinking in terms of pyramids and oak trees. He says the world often likes to do things in terms of pyramids. This is man's kingdom. This is the way we often build the world. At the top of a pyramid, he says, it's a pinnacle upon which only one can stand at the very top. It's powerful because being at the top is powerful because it's privileged. It's built, the pyramid represents things like wealth, success, those kind of things, control. The pyramid is all about strength, or at least some sense of perceived strength. On the bottom of the pyramid, so you would often have leadership at the top of the pyramid. In fact, at one point, he even writes on his diagram, he says, the powerful, the privileged, the wealthy. In the middle of the pyramid, he even has at one point the middle class. But on the bottom of the pyramid, you have the masses, the least of these, the poor, the mentally ill, the outcasts, the ugly, the misfits. We would say the mumsers, in the weirdos, the aliens, the orphans, and the widows. That's how the world often builds. We build on the backs, we build on the shoulders of kind of the most exploited, and then we build strength upon that, and the people that benefit the most are at the top of, that made sense to me, pyramids. We're used to pyramids. But Davin said he wonders if you could envision the kingdom. We would say empire and shalom. Maybe we can envision shalom not as a pyramid, but more like an oak tree, which is, he makes a point in here of saying, is almost like an upside down pyramid. Like you think about an oak tree, and the big part is at the top, and the small part's at the bottom, except this actually has a root system. I love that. We'll talk about that some. But on the top of this system is the masses, the least of these, the poor, the weak, the weirdos, the outcast, the mumser. So in the pyramid, they're on the bottom and everything's built on there. But in the kingdom of God, they're at the top. They are the top part, the leafy, the fruit-bearing foliage. I suppose oak trees probably don't bear a whole lot of fruit, but you get the point. He says on the bottom, all the way at the bottom, The trunk, even going into the root system, everything's rooted in God's love. The greatest among us is the servant of all type of a mindset. He has some other notes here that I thought were pretty good. He has some notes on pyramids, the world system. As he thought about pyramids, he said it's lonely at the top. The pinnacle is sharp, it's pointy, it's infinitely small. There's no perch, there's nothing to hold on to. A pyramid practically provides no shade because of its shape. There's no shelter because you can't get under anything. It's inflexible. It's rigid, static, and unmoving. He says from bottom to top, all roads lead to the same place. That one, keep rolling that one over. That one has some legs to it. That one will compare that to the oak tree. Hold on, give us a second. That's a good one. I like that one. It's a pyramid is, here's words that he thought: compressive, uniform, drab, dense and heavy. It's a huge base to support a very tiny top. There's no life flow. It's lifeless. He even says pain and suffering, anger and hate, all of that. If there's pain and suffering, anger and hate, everything is directed towards the top because that's the only way you can direct it, right? So the 99% on the bottom, the 1%, this is the way the world builds things. It doesn't work and just creates not just injustice, but all the anger and everything else. So now here's some observation that my friend Davin makes about the tree, the oak tree. There's full community at the top. So on the pyramid, you are the closer you get to the top, the more lonely it is. How true is that, right? But in the tree, the closer you get to the top, the more community, the more foliage, the more action is going on. The top is infinitely large. It can keep growing. The pyramid keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The oak tree keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The branches can go everywhere. There's no chance of falling. Where there's no shade in a pyramid, obviously there's abundant shade with the oak tree. There's shade everywhere, with brief visits to full sun possible when you need it, and loads of shelter. Instead of rigid and unmoving and inflexible, the oak tree, it swings, it bends, it moves, it blows in the breeze. It's dynamic, not static. From bottom to top, if you go from bottom to top, all roads lead to the top of a pyramid. But if you go from bottom to top in a tree, all roads and paths branch out endlessly, with no roads going to the exact same place. Instead of being compressive, a tree is expansive. Instead of being uniform, a tree is diverse. Instead of being drab, a tree is colorful. Instead of being dense and heavy, a tree is light and airy. I like that. Instead of having a huge bottom that supports a tiny top, the oak tree has a strong but small base that supports a massive foliage up above it. Instead of there being no life flowing anywhere, in an oak tree, life is flowing abundantly. It flows upwards from the root system through the trunk to every branch and every leaf. I just thought it was that when he wrote that down and drew some pictures and sent it to me, I thought, man, that there is all kinds of, and I know that some of us are, I'm a words guy. but some of us are visual people. Some of us are artists. Some of us take an image and it will speak to us far more than a lesson or a teaching ever will. So I thought, man, if anybody loves to think and ponder on images, I share that as a thought of the day with you today. Ponder on the difference between pyramids and oak trees. And I think we might be better for it. Maybe you'll come up with your own observations about pyramids and oak trees and make this even better. We'll see we'll see if I have any more of these envelopes hiding in the archive. And if I do, we'll pull that out in the next video. Talk to you then.